assembling an emergency supply kit. We're going to talk about protecting yourself from risks and hazards. And we're going to talk about getting information and staying informed during an emergency. So first, the family. The theory is that in an emergency, in a disaster, you might be on your own for the first 3 days because the other emergency services are going to be tied up with areas that are more severely impacted. So we're going to help you be prepared to help yourself. We say yo-yo 72. You're on your own for 72 hours. Yo-yo 72. And if you listen to news stations from time to time, you'll find that 72 hours is a real conservative estimate because you'll find that there's people who are in power failure situations for a week or more, or suffering from other disasters where they're displaced from their homes for a week or more. So, you want to hold a family meeting. You want to discuss the dangers that could occur. You want to share a plan so that everybody's on the same page. Different people might have different responsibilities. You're certainly not going to give a young child the same kind of responsibilities as you'd give a teenager. A father might have different responsibilities than a mother. Where to decide in case of where to go in case of an emergency. If it's just a fire in your house, you could meet by the big tree across the street. You don't want to stay in your own front yard because that'll get in the way of firefighters. But hey, that big tree across the street's okay. Or go 2 doors down to Bobby's house, especially if it's winter or raining. So you have a meeting place that's close to home. Then you want to have a meeting place that's a little bit more remote because your whole community may be affected. Maybe the local elementary school. In most cases, you can walk to the local elementary school because you can't get your car out of the garage. The garage is collapsed. So you want to have something close by and something a little bit more remote. And don't forget about the pets. If you've ever gone to Naperville's fire department open house, I'm sure you've heard them talk about EDITH, Escape Drill in the Home. Well, that's part of the program. I'm not going to talk about EDITH, but practicing your plan is an important part because in an emergency, if you don't practice it, what's next? Uh-oh, I forgot. It's quite possible that the family won't be together when a disaster occurs. It's more likely dad's going to be downtown in the office, mom's going to be wherever, the kids are going to be in school, maybe 2 or 3 different schools. So it's quite likely that you're not going to be at the same time at the same place. So why not make a little emergency pack for your kids to put in their backpack? Emergency phone numbers, who to contact. You want to be able to contact somebody that's out of the area. Okay. Whoever, anybody who needs to make contact, we'll call grandma in New York and let her know they're safe. And if the whole family does that, even though you're separated, grandma knows that everybody, and she can relate to the rest of the family as well. Prepare a contact phone number list. Maybe stick an extra energy bar in there. Hey, sometimes kids get hungry during the day and they can easily replace it, but it's also good if the disaster means we can't serve you lunch in school today. We're hiding in the hallways because of the tornado threat, so we can't serve you lunch. You go into your backpack and you got your energy bar. A few Band-Aids, never hurt. So for the family emergency kit, we need backpacks, rolling bags, something like this where you can put stuff that you could grab and go. Fire department knocks on your door and says, hey, you have to evacuate now. You grab those bags and you go. What should be in it? A gallon of water. Theoretically, half for drinking and half for sanitation. Food that does not require cooking or refrigeration. Now, I grant you that a can of beans doesn't technically have to be cooked, but certainly tastes a heck of a lot better hot. On the other hand, peanut butter and honey never goes bad. Doesn't need refrigeration, and it can't spoil. I don't remember the details of why, but there's something with the enzymes and whatnot in there that those things can't spoil. Canned food, canned ham. You know, around the holidays, you always see the canned hams out in the supermarket. And that's great. That could be eaten cold. That doesn't need cooking. I mean, for the holidays, dinner, you probably put it in the oven and heat it up, but it's smoked. It doesn't need to be cooked. So foods that do not need cooking and do not need refrigeration. If any of it needs a can opener, make sure you have a manual can opener. Power may be out. You may be living out of that pack at home, but you need a manual can opener. And some paper plates and cups and utensils. A whistle is always good to have. If you get, if part of the problem is you are buried under debris and the searchers are trying to find you, the whistle will certainly help. Or it could help you gather your family back together. Matches in a waterproof container, naturally. You may be keeping warm in front of a campfire. Children's needs, diapers, pacifiers, bottles, formula, baby food, vitamins, medications, activity books and games, and I suggest pencils, not pens. Pens run out of ink. A pencil I can sharpen with my pocket knife if I have to. When the Americans went into space, they found that ballpoint pens don't work without gravity. So they spent thousands of dollars developing a pen that will work. What did the Russians do? They sent pencils. And then you've got some special needs like prescription drugs, eyeglasses, contact lenses, solutions, hearing aids, batteries, and of course, don't forget the pet stuff. And also for the emergency kit, battery-powered flashlights or lanterns. I keep this in my car. Flashlight. I keep it in the inside compartment. Why? I could reach out the car window and put it on top of the car without ever endangering myself. And it's got a bunch of settings so you can get those flashing lights in all different kinds of patterns. Battery-powered radio. I know you guys like props. Battery-powered radio, yeah, it could run on batteries, but if the batteries run down, and it's even got a flashlight. Well, I guess I didn't crank it enough to get the flashlight working well. But at any rate, that's a nice toy. That's the one I keep in the basement, and I've got one in my emergency pack. Battery-operated radios. Extra batteries and chargers and things like that for your phones and so forth. Glow sticks, you see them around a lot around Halloween, because if your kids are going out at night, they can put the glow stick around their neck and, you know, be seen at night. But they have them that last up to like 8 hours, and it's chemicals inside of a plastic tube. It can't hurt you, and it doesn't run out of batteries. Just chemicals just get exhausted. First aid kits, and unless you're expert at first aid, a manual will go with it. So you injured yourself, you don't remember how to treat third-degree burns, well, go flip through the pages and find out. Toiletries, toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer, feminine supplies. Sometimes my tongue gets in the way of my eye teeth and I can't see what I'm saying. And cash in the small denominations, banks might not be open, ATMs may not be working. Photocopies of important documents, so security cards, passports, credit card records, insurance policies, those contact phone numbers and so forth. Give a copy to a friend or relative that's close, that's a little bit removed from where you are, so if there's a disaster, they probably won't be in the same disaster. Local maps, yeah, well, our phones may not be working because the towers may be down. And, well, we talked about the paper and the pencils. Now, so you want this stuff to be easily portable. You may not be able to drive someplace, you may have to walk someplace. So the case on wheels is good. A backpack is good. Certainly make something up for everybody in the family so everybody can be carrying something. So you'll have a smaller backpack for the little kids and a bigger backpack for the bigger kids and so forth. Keep it someplace quick, easily accessible. I keep mine in the garage. And then every 6 months, you want to go in there and do a little inventory, see if there's any expiration dates on any of the products that have expired, replace them. Food and water might need to be replaced. Again, see what the expiration dates are. Adjust it for the season. So if you did it spring and fall, you could take out the extra sweaters and whatnot that you need for the winter and put in, lighter clothing for the spring and summer. And of course, as your family changes, you need to update your emergency packs. Kids get older, lifestyles change, so you may need to change the medications that are in there. In addition to that list of phone numbers, having a list of your daily medications is a good idea too. And for your vehicle, keep the gas tank at least half full. Naturally, if you're driving a long trip, you're going to run it down so you don't have to stop so often, but if you're, just around town, when it gets down to about half, fill it up again. First aid kits, water, fire extinguishers, flashlights, and then there's seasonal items like the snow shovel you can take out in July. All these things happen in Naperville. So, you'll hear on the radio the guy saying, oh, we've got a winter storm watch. What's that mean? Or tornado watch. What's that mean? It means conditions are favorable for this kind of an event. Not that it is definitely going to happen, but later, as it gets closer, it will more than likely go from a watch to a warning. That means it's time to take action. If it's a tornado warning, somebody's already sighted the tornado relatively nearby. The Naperville sirens might be going off because one of the Naperville Emergency Management Agency spotters was out at the border of Aurora and Naperville and saw it coming. And you always hear about winter weather advisories where they're going to tell you, okay, we're issuing a winter weather advisory. Roads are going to get slippery afternoon because that's when we're expecting this snowstorm. Thunderstorms, only about 10% are classified as severe thunderstorms. Severe thunderstorms usually have large hail, heavy winds, and obviously a lot of water. So if there's a thunderstorm schedule planned, if there's a thunderstorm forecasted, you might consider postponing outdoor activities. Secure any loose stuff in the yard, to bring the chairs inside or take the plants off the rail, things that can blow around. It could just get disturbed, like, oh, it's blown over into the neighbor's yard, or it could be blown into your patio doors, windows, break the glass. So you want to secure things that are outdoors. Avoid showering or bathing during the thunderstorm. Unplugging an appliance is a good idea because quite often, when there's lightning, there's power surges. And we've got the 30-30 rule. I gave you the yo-yo 72 rule, now it's time for the 30-30 rule. Go indoors after seeing lightning if you can't count to 30 before you hear the thunder. Lightning and thunder are the same event, but light travels faster than sound. So you'll see the lightning before you hear the thunder. And if you can't get to 30, counting between those two events, it's time to go inside.
1 second per mile, right?
Basically. And then you want to wait at least 30 minutes after you hear the last time you hear thunder. And if you're stuck out in a thunderstorm, you can't get indoors, you can't get into a car with a hard top, now what? You want to make yourself as small as possible. So as a picture here, you're going to squat down. You're going to get away from trees that might be struck or other things, but you want to make yourself as small as possible. And this is going to minimize the chance of you being hit by lightning. Now, if lightning hits the ground near you, you might still be injured. So you want to minimize the amount of contact that you have with the ground. So you're squatting down, getting yourself as small as possible. You're getting up on your toes, minimizing the amount of ground that you're contacting. And you're going to put your heels together so that if electrical energy comes through one foot, it can go right back out the other foot without causing other body injuries. You're going to monitor the radio. If you've got a weather radio, that's great. But just regular news radio is fine. That's one of the things that when I'm traveling a lot, I usually like to do the audio books, and then I don't find out about news and weather as much as I should. But that's my weakness. If a tornado's approaching, there's certain danger signs that you can see. It'll get dark or greenish sky. There could be large hail and high winds even before the tornado strikes. Low, dark clouds that are rotating. And they say if you hear something that sounds like a freight train coming, that rotation. But if it's a lot of tornadoes come at night, and you may not be able to see the tornado coming because of the darkness. So that's when you have to take, if you hear the sirens or you get the beep over your phone or the radio or the television, whatever, it's time to take shelter. Here's scenes from Plainfield in 1990. About 3 years ago, we had a tornado that hit the southeast corner of Naperville. I think it was just this past year, there was one that hit the southwest corner of Naperville. So we are not immune. We may not be Oklahoma or Kansas, but we are not immune to tornadoes. So, tornadoes coming, you need to take shelter. You want to go to the lowest level possible. Basement's preferred. If you don't have a basement, an inside room where there's no windows, because if glass is breaking, you don't want to be there. Staying away from windows and doors. You think if you go down in the basement, you might want to stand in a corner? No, because if the house is hit hard, the debris flying around tend to collect in the corners. So if you have a basement to go to, under the stairs is a great place, or under the pool table, or under some other structure like that. Use your arms to protect your head and neck, and don't open windows. Some people think that if you open the window, you equalize the pressure inside and out. It doesn't work that way. If you open the windows, all you do is let more storm in your house. If you're out away from home, try to get into another type of building. Same kind of rules. You want to stay away from the glass. You can't outrun a tornado. Even with your vehicle, you cannot drive faster than a tornado. It will catch up to you. Or, well, A, it doesn't have to follow roads, and B, it doesn't have to follow speed limits. It's not affected by traffic. So don't think you're going to outrun a tornado. Don't get under an overpass or a bridge. The wind seems to intensify like a wind tunnel into those areas. Floods. If you see the picture there, that's a stairway down to the Riverwalk in Naperville. Only where's the walk part? I could see the river, I could see the stairs, I can't see the walk part. It's one of the most common, floods are one of the most common types of disasters. They can occur anywhere in the United States. Even desert areas can have the potential for occasional downpours. They're very costly. Here's some pictures from 1996 and you can see here the walking bridge over the river. There, you can see the top half of the bridge. You can't see the walking part. Those houses, I'm sure, were not built right up to the back with their back steps dipping into the water. The road lower right, you've got the roads submerged. So know the risks in your area. Prepare to evacuate if you have to. You know, if you're nowhere near the river, you've got a lot less potential issue, but know your area. Keep important documents in a waterproof box. Actually, I've got a fireproof safe, just a little one, you know, not like file drawer size, not even that, more like a briefcase size. And it keeps things, in case of fire, it's fireproof, and in case of, and it'll be waterproof as well, so. Make sure your furnace, water heater, electrical panel, outlets even, if you know the water, when it comes, usually gets that high, you want to make sure that stuff is at least a foot higher. You want to install check valves on floor drains in the basements, so you don't get sewer backups. If you're eligible, get flood insurance. And you need to keep informed. So you need the radio. Flood conditions might might interfere with your electrical power. So again, battery operated radios. You don't want to get into water to unplug electrical equipment, but you would like to do it beforehand because that'll help prevent some damage. If the electrical equipment's not energized and gets wet, it's less likely to get damaged than if it is energized and gets wet. During an evacuation, you do not want to be walking through floodwaters. As little as 1 foot of water rushing down the street can knock you off your feet. As little as 2 feet of water can carry away a car. Rainwater, hey, if you can catch like this, you're okay. But once it hits something, it's contaminated. You can't be drinking that water. You have to clean and disinfect anything that flood waters come in contact with. Food's going to be contaminated. If you've got flood insurance, great. If you think you've got a flood condition, but it's localized, like my sump pump failed, that's not a flood. Don't call your insurance agent and say, hey, I had a flood in my basement because the sump pump failed. The sump pump failed. That's covered, where flood damage might not be. You've got your emergency supplies. So in a power failure, you've got your flashlight, you've got your batteries, You want to avoid using candles, they're too easily knocked over. Again, you want to turn off electrical equipment, because sometimes when the power company gets the power back on, sometimes there's a surge. So you want to turn off and, if possible, unplug electrical equipment. Obviously, you don't want to be running gas generators in your living room. That's called carbon monoxide poisoning. And, keep in touch, keep listening to the radio and finding out what's going on and how long things are going to be like that, and you can adjust. Heat. Extreme heat makes it hard for the body to adjust. So if you got work to do in the yard, do it in the early morning hours when it's still cooler. If you have to be outside, wear light clothing. Make sure you're wearing a hat. Drink water before the activity as well as during the activity. You want to avoid hot foods and beverages that contain caffeine or alcohol. Don't overexert yourself, just work at a steady pace. Take regular breaks in cool spaces. If you're out in the heat for any length of time, you might suffer from heat cramps. Basically, at that point, it's not too severe a condition. Basically, you just want to rest a little bit, get into the shade, cool down, and drink water. The next category is heat exhaustion. A little bit more serious, but very much the same practice. Move to a cool place, loosen your clothing. If you've got cold compresses, apply the cold compresses. Drink water slowly, take your time. And if you can, elevate your feet about 12 inches, that's good too. Puts less stress on the heart that way. A heat stroke is the most serious condition. Your body can actually stop sweating. Your body temperature will be increasing. Your skin will be hot and red. You might feel chills. You could be confused. You could be nauseous. You could be unconscious. This is an emergency. This is a 911 call. Hazardous materials. Where are hazardous materials? Everywhere. Manufacturers producing product may be bringing in hazardous materials to produce their product. They may be producing a hazardous material. That hazardous stuff has to be stored. It has to be transported. Imagine a truck that's delivering a pallet of paper to the local school. Might also be carrying a pallet of hazardous materials for the manufacturer down in Romeoville. Obviously, when you use hazardous materials, you have to use them according to the safety instructions. And when it's time to get rid of them, you have to get rid of them accordingly. Naperville's got a hazardous waste collection point. Some counties do. You've got hazardous chemicals in your life every day. You drove here today. Your car has gasoline in it. Or even if it's all electric, the chemicals that are in that battery are hazardous. Does anybody here have bleach in the house? Everybody has bleach in the house. How about ammonia? Ammonia, yeah? Do you know what would happen if you mix those two together? It becomes nerve gas. That can kill you quickly. So there's hazardous materials everywhere, and you never know. So if you've got some old paint or any other kind of chemical that's haven't been used in years and probably never will be, but you're keeping it just in case, get rid of it. I don't think I have to tell you, if your kids or grandkids are coming over the house, you don't want that stuff under the sink where they can reach it, although that seems like a natural place to put some of those things. And you see on the bottom, you can see it on the bottom here, the national poison control number. There are local numbers also. If there's a hazardous materials incident, you may be asked to evacuate. That's what your grab-and-go bags are for. If you're outside, you want to go upstream or uphill or upwind. Most of these chemicals, I hesitate to say all, because if I did, somebody would probably come up with an exception. But most of these chemicals are heavier than air. Some of them are gases, some of them are liquids, some of them are solid. But like I said, I hesitate to say all, because somebody would probably come up with an exception. But for the most part, they're heavier than air. So you want to get up and away. If you're in a motor vehicle and there's no shelter available, keep the windows closed, close the vents, shut off the air conditioning and the heater so that you don't have more stuff coming in. Your car's pretty airtight when you do that. Yeah. If you're at home, the authorities might say, shelter in place. They don't want you out on the roads. They feel you're safer in your own home. So, make sure you get the pets inside, lock the windows and doors, and actually, the seals on your windows and doors, in most cases, will work better with the lock set. Close any vents, fireplace dampers, even close the interior doors. Turn off heat and the air conditioning, and because because these chemicals are generally heavier than air, you want to get up to a higher upper level. For the tornadoes, you're going downstairs. For the hazardous materials, you're going upstairs. Here's a few more basic things to put into your emergency kit. Wrench, pocket knife, pliers, screwdrivers, scissors, some plastic sheeting, garbage bags, duct tape, work gloves, dust mask, fire extinguisher, extra clothing and shoes. I was going to send some stuff off to Goodwill when I was doing getting my emergency kit ready, and I said, wait a minute, this still fits. I mean, I don't wear it anymore, but it still fits. So I'll put my extra sweatpants and a sweatshirt and some shoes and a pair of socks in that go bag. And of course, seasonal items. Here you have an illustration of what to do with some of those emergency supplies. You're putting plastic over the openings to slow down the possibility of the hazardous materials getting in. Like I said, if it's liquids and powders, it's not that much of an issue. But if it's liquids, it could evaporate, and it might be a gas we're talking about. Chlorine gas. You see trucks, if you go on the highways, very often you'll see tankers filled with gaseous hazardous materials. I showed you the emergency radio. Am I on time? Oh, there's a clock back there too. So that's a good way to keep informed. In addition to the various cable channels having information, cable companies having information channels, your own city does too. If you're traveling here from Wheaton, check with them because they probably have their own number, because it's a relatively short radius that these emergency numbers run when they're run by the city. The outdoor sirens are there to alert people who are outdoors. They're tested the first Tuesday of each month, and that might not be a bad day to do one of your little practice drills with your family. Sirens go off, what do? Go down the basement. It's a good time to practice because they're reminding you that this is something that we should be doing, and the sirens will go off 10 o'clock on the first Tuesday of the month. Other times they go off, a tornado has been sighted. One of the trained weather spotters has spotted a tornado. That's why the sirens are going off. And if you hear a second round of sirens, that means the second one's in the area. There is no all clear siren or signal. So listening to your radio, looking out the window, using your good judgment is what you've got to do, well, is what you have to do. So, are you ready? If you go to the FEMA website, FEMA.gov, or you go to the City of Naperville's website, there's a section there for the Emergency Management Agency, and you can get information about being prepared. Naperville's Emergency Management Agency runs classes. It's about a 10-hour class over 5 weeks or something like that. 2 or 3 hours a night for like five or 6 weeks, where they go into a lot more depth on this kind of material. But the philosophy behind CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, is help you be ready to protect your family. And once that's completed, you can then say, hey, now I can help my neighbors. Now I can help my community. Any questions? Well, and I thank you all. Let's get to the mic.
Speak louder too, I suppose.
Well, yeah, but this way it goes over the cast, the Zoom cast.
No, I was just curious about the comment about the bridge, not getting underneath the bridge. You know, if I'm driving down the highway and there's a tornado, I can't outrun it. Am I not safer under a bridge rather than?
No, actually, I can't explain all the science behind it. I can't explain all the science behind it, but the winds get actually more intense under the bridge. It's like funnels in there.
I think what they say is to actually go and lay in a ditch.
That's
Okay.
except the ditch is filling up with water.
Exactly. But, yeah, because everything's gonna be floating, flying around you and whatever. Just a comment, with the jet stream slowing down, the cool air pushes down more, so we're more susceptible now, I think, to tornadoes. Because in the past, tornadoes like Oklahoma and whatever, that was all due from the cool air coming down off the Rockies, warm air from the north. Now we have another source of cool air coming down from the north, when the warm air is coming up at the possible rotation. You're talking about the heat, and I don't see it published yet, but they were talking about publish maybe a dry bulb. Dry bulb was wet bulb
Oh, I see.
temperature,
Yeah.
because the temperature is really quite lower. It's in the 80s, where if you get a dry bulb in the low 80s, mid 80s, you can't survive. I mean, the heat, your body just can't evaporate enough to cool you down.
Any more good news?
What you said about lightning strikes was pretty interesting. The position you put your feet in and everything like that. Does that work even when you have like shoes and thick padding and stuff like that under?
If the electrical energy is going to enter your body, if the electrical energy is going to enter your body, yeah, it'll flow through the cycle. What you were talking about with the weather,
Yeah.
there is an app for your phone. I think it was put out by NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. At any rate, it could tell you what the hazards are in your area, because it takes information off your phone GPS. So it could tell you what the hazards are in your area, because it knows the weather, it knows where you are, and it knows the weather from the weather services. So there's an app. There's an app for that.
I was just going to say, when you were talking about what you have in your basement for staying in your basement for a day, day and a half or something, tornado hits, batteries for everything that runs on batteries. In our basement, in our tornado area, I've got a battery, a lithium battery, that will power small devices for a few days. That's a couple $100, got a handle on it, and holds power for a long time. So it'll sit down there, and if we had to run down there, it's, you know, got a 5-watt light, it'll power your cell phones, it'll power your lights, your lamps, if you have to. So those things are out there.
One caution on the lithium is, on the lithium batteries, when you're charging them, the best level, first off, stick with the manufacturer's equipment. If you have to get a replacement battery for any type of lithium battery-powered device, your scooters, your e-bikes, if you have to replace those batteries, replace them with the manufacturer's recommended stuff, not the cheap shit off the, not the cheap stuff off of Amazon.
Good habit.
Use the charger that came with the device to recharge. And again, if that, for some reason that fails, go back to the manufacturer and get the right part. Those systems are generally programmed to charge to about 80%. When those things overcharge, they tend to burn. And if you've got one in your garage that you plugged in to charge the battery on your e-bike and you went in the house, you might not have a garage left or a house left. Because I work for an insurance company, safety guy, can't tell you anything, but we had a supermarket burnt down. A supermarket burnt down. An employee rode his bike to work, plugged it in the back room, and went about doing his business. He wasn't paying attention to it, wasn't checking on it, and the bike started on fire, burnt the building down.
This is more of a comment. There's a fairly sophisticated mutual aid support amongst the different communities in this area, which is when these emergencies come up, if a particular area is hit, the support comes from a much broader area. So we're fairly lucky in that regard. In addition, because Argonne National Laboratory has a myriad of chemicals and stuff that they use, they have a fairly sophisticated hazardous response group that's also available to help the local communities, and they're charged to do that as part of this mutual aid. So from that standpoint, while everything you said is absolutely true, the local governments have worked also to provide the necessary support to minimize the impacts of any of these disasters, which is a big plus for living in this area. So.
Thank you. You're absolutely correct that there is automatic aid responses. It could be, a large fire, a multi-vehicle accident. Naperville's got a mass casualty unit, so they can handle multiple injuries. They certainly have multiple ambulances, but one of them is down there in the southwest corner, and if the accident is up here on 88, they're going to call for Lyle's, Wheaton's, or any other town, and that's what they do. I was a volunteer fireman in my younger days, and even there, we had mutual aid agreements where, hey, this fire's too big for us. We're going to call the next town over to send out some people. Or we need some specialized equipment we don't have, so we call them. Certainly the hazardous chemicals. There's emergency response plans for that. Many of the fire departments have trailers filled with special chemicals or to neutralize, or tools to address these things. Not everybody does, but everybody knows them. We can get them if we need them. Anything else?
Someone mentioned to me, I don't know, a year or two ago, I never thought about it. We're from Texas and from Houston. There are often tornado warnings, right? And I never really think there's actually going to be a tornado. So when there's a tornado siren going off, I'm like, oh, we're going to go downstairs to the basement. It'll be fun. And I never thought about the fact that I should have a good pair of shoes. If there actually is a tornado and everything's leveled, you need shoes. I always go downstairs barefoot. So I thought, wow, I never thought about that. So I'm probably the only one.
Yeah. And you may hang around the house without barefoot, or you may be wearing flip-flops or something, And then, up, tornado sound, grab my go bag down in the basement, and now what? The house falls down on me, they dig me out, and I got my go bag, but my feet are still bare, now what? So, an extra pair of shoes, a sweatsuit, something comfortable and, you know, a little bit forgiving in case you've gained a few pounds since you put them in there. I know, that's what I did. Anybody else?
No, I mean, a lot of us don't have a full basement, and I think a full basement by code, you need to have a window well to be able to get out. I think that's true, but I've got just a crawl space. I don't want to go in that crawl space and have the house collapse on top of me. How am I going to get out? So, but they say don't stay near a window either. That's the only way I have to get out.
During the storm, you want to be away from the glass in case it breaks. So get to an interior room if you can. It might be a bathroom, but you want to get to an interior room if you can. You can get, and if you do find that the bathroom's the best place, laying in the tub, it gives you some more protection. What was the rest of that? And what was the rest of that comment that you made? Oh, yeah, you don't want to go to cross. Yeah, I had my first house here. They kind of close this too. Yeah, I can put in. But I can get into the stairs to the second floor. Or I can get into that little area between the bathroom and the family room. There's a little space there where the door goes out to the garage, away from the windows.
I was just recalling, I drove through, I think it was Woodward, Oklahoma one time, just after a really strong tornado, and drove past this old two-story house. The only thing left was the bathtub hanging on its pipes on the second floor. So that would have been a pretty good spot. One other thing, I recall we had a box of emergency food supplies, a lot of cans, but I don't think there was any can opener in there.
That's why you have to have your Boy Scout pocket knife. It's got a can opener on there.
What's your opinion on having an emergency power supply, like a generator or a power wall? Because a lot of times, maybe your house isn't it, but your surrounding area, you're without power for 2, 4, 8 hours, whatever. Power supply can keep the sump going, can keep the refrigerator going.
If you're in an area that's prone to power failures, you certainly want to consider a generator. You certainly don't want it running in your garage or any place where you can accumulate the carbon monoxide. But if you have, I know when I was living, I downsized. I moved from Naperville to Bolingbrook. And I know that in both cases, when we've had power failures, power's come back on in like an hour. But I know that there's more remote areas in both of these towns where, yeah, that's the last house on a dead-end street, and they've got one line going out there, and that's a really low priority. The main line feeding the community is a higher priority.
The picture up there had a nuclear blast, and then if that happens, well, that's it.
Yeah, if you're too close to a nuclear blast, there isn't much you can do. Anybody else?
One more thing about what somebody else said about window wells and basements.
Oh, that's what it was I was going to respond to.
Yeah, we have a safe space down in the basement where it's pretty safe, except there's a window well right in that safe space. And I've got a piece of decently thick plexiglass that I put over the window. And the plexiglass may blow out also, but at least the shards of the window will not be blowing out before the plexiglass does.
Basements that are intended for occupancy have to have an escape window well or enough area above ground so you get a standard size window in it. That's my basement down in Bolingbrook. I don't have a window well, I've got a window. I probably have to jump up on a chair to get it, but I can get out it if I had to. At some of the other townhomes in my community, I could see the window wells, the tops of the window wells. I never walked over there to look down, but I can see the tops. So that's, if it's designed to be habitable, it's got to have a window, and it's much for ventilation as for escape. If it's not this, it could, but you might have a builder that built the basement intending it for storage. And if they didn't intend it for occupancy, it doesn't have to have a window. Anything else? Thank you.